All right, what's up, everybody? This is Daniel Barrett from AdWords Nerds, and I wanted to make this video to go over what appears to be a deliberate attempt by some group of people to spend the money of real estate investors on Google Ads. Now, this is, again, from what I can tell, a very deliberate, very organized attempt to send spam leads through Google Ads to investors. Now, I'm going to go through how you can spot these leads particularly, and then what I think you might be able to do in order to remove them. Let me lay out what we know and what we don't know. We know that this has been going on at least for a couple of months. I don't know who is doing it. We do think, however, based on feedback that I've gotten from a variety of other investors, including from Collective Genius and some other investor groups, that it does seem to be a group of human beings. So it's not a malicious script or a bot like I originally thought, because we do see in screen recordings of these people filling out forms, they're able to fill out CAPTCHAs, little things that say, "Are you a robot?" They're able to make decisions on the fly and navigate around unexpected pop-ups or things like that. The important thing to keep in mind is that because this is a group of people that, as far as we can tell, all have different IP addresses, are all on different devices, are all using different browsers, this type of spam would not be caught by systems like, for example, ClickSees. Because the way the ClickSees works is they watch for suspicious patterns of activity across a particular IP address or IP address range. They then feed that IP address into Google Ads and say, block this IP address from seeing my ads in the future, which prevents them from clicking. Because they're using different IP addresses, that approach doesn't work, nor does it seem to be caught in general, either by ClickSees or by Google themselves. Now, I will say the one good piece of information here is that my hypothesis so far is that this traffic is coming solely through the Google Search Partners network. And that's important because search partners are generally third-party websites that run Google ad placements. And because of that, I think it's very possible that Google simply has less control or perhaps less transparency to these types of groups or these IP addresses or whatever it is. And therefore, they're having a lot more trouble blocking them, identifying them, and so on. So without any further ado, let me show you real quick how to identify these types of leads. And then I'm going to show you how you can go into your Google Ads settings, see if you are open to this potential type of spam, and then I'll show you how to remove it. So let's go over here. All right, now I have here a spreadsheet of some lead data that we tracked from one of our clients. I've gone ahead and just made most of this anonymous. And there's a couple of things that immediately jumped out at us. Now, particularly, we were able to spot these patterns because we work with investors all across the country, and because for every lead that we generate, we track a significant volume of data points, like, for example, the date and time, the name, the address, phone number, and email, the campaign, the source, the keyword, the device, all the second step formula, form data you might ask, for example, like property size and all that stuff. So we get all that stuff. And so by aggregating it all together, we were able to notice some patterns. The first thing is that for most of this type of lead, there is no name information. Right? Generally, there's not going to be any name in here. And typically when a name is included, we've noticed that it tends to be one word. So it'll be like Tom or something like that. It generally will be a complete name. Secondly, and this is probably the single biggest giveaway for these, at least so far, is that the leads will come through with incomplete address information. So you'll notice that these all have street names, but no city, no state, no zip code. That's very, very common. The other thing that seems very, very common across all of these is the use of all capital letters across the fields, right? So this is very common that the address will come in all caps. Very often the name, if there's a single name there, it'll come in all caps. Now the phone numbers here don't match the area codes of the target market the client was going after. So for example, this is an investor who's targeting a particular city. These area codes for the phone numbers don't have the right area codes for that city. Now I have removed the end of that phone number just in case it's somebody's real phone number, but generally when you do call the phone number, it either doesn't work or it belongs to a person that didn't fill out the form. So that's another potential giveaway. Similarly, the email addresses, although they do exist in here, generally won't work or go to the wrong person. And then you'll notice here, these were the keywords that they entered in, or I should say the keywords in Google that triggered on the search term that generated the lead. you can see it does come from a variety. Now, if you go through all the client data where you notice this, it is a variety of keywords across multiple clients. So they aren't just searching in one given thing that you could easily, for example, negative keyword out or something like that. It does seem to be a variety of keywords, all pretty well targeted around real estate investing and real estate investors. Now, we'll say there's a selection bias there because obviously I only work with real estate investors. And so I would only see searches that match that criteria anyway. But I will say, at least from what we can see, it's a diverse set of keywords that they're using to trigger the ads. And it is all pretty well pointed to real estate investing rather than, for example, retail real estate. Another thing I want to point out is that this condition here where it says false or true, where it says false, they did not fill out the second form. So most investors are using this kind of basic funnel where you have an upfront form that maybe asks for name, address, phone number, something like that. And then a second step form that asks for much more detailed property information. On almost every single case, they did not fill out the second form. All right. Now for these, one of these is a legitimate lead and the rest aren't. And based on my description, you can probably tell this one right here is not one of these spam leads. You can see here, it's got a complete name. Here, it's got a complete address. So not just the street name, but the complete address, including the city and the state. The phone number did make sense. And you can see here, they did fill out the second step form. That's an indication that this is a legitimate lead, while the other ones, all capitals on the name, if it exists, typically not a name, all capitals on a street address with no city, state, or zip, and then not filling out the second step form, phone number, area codes not matching the target area. Those are the big giveaways. So now that we know how to identify these, let's talk about how you can check your account to see if you're open and vulnerable to these and what you can do about it. All right, I'm here in a test Google Ads account that we use for this kind of thing. And when you log into Google, you're probably going to see something either like this screen, which is your overview screen. You might come into your campaign screen to look at your campaign data, so on and so forth. The place you want to look is where you go to, actually you can go down here to settings, okay, and choose campaign settings for all your campaigns. And you should have a column here that says networks, okay? If you don't have that column, you can come up here to where it says columns and select the different types of information that you want to include. Networks right here. This one you want checked, that'll add this column to your column set. Okay, then you would go ahead and click apply. What you want is this where did it go? I just had this networks column right here. And what you want to check is, does it say search partners? It will say Google search for most of you. It might say Google display network. That's all fine, depending on the type of campaign that you're running. What you want to look for is this search partners setting, because we believe, at least is my hypothesis, and it could be wrong, that these leads are specifically coming through the Google Search Partners Network. And I will say, so far in our testing, when we have removed Search Partners Network from the settings of a given campaign, the spam leads seem to have stopped. And again, I'm couching this in, I don't know for sure. I want to be clear about that, but that does seem to be the pattern so far. So here's how you would do that, how you would get rid of this if you are currently targeting Search Partners Network and you're having a trouble with these spam leads. I will say, not everybody that targets Search Partners Network gets these spam leads. It's simply a risk that you may be running, but if you're not getting any spam leads, you might not have to worry about it. What you want to do is come in here, any campaign that had search partners, you want to go ahead and click on it. That'll take you into the account, and then you can go to settings. You're now going to be looking for settings on this campaign specifically, right? You're now going to be looking at settings for this campaign specifically. What you want to do is come up here to where it says networks, right in the middle. You want to click this drop-down box, and you can see here it says include search partners in your search network thing. This is typically selected by default when you set up a new Google Ads campaign. You want to go ahead and uncheck it. It'll tell you most advertisers include it. That's because it's there by default. So you want to go ahead and ignore that and click save. And that will take search partners out of your network. So you can see it's no longer listed there. And that should, hopefully, fingers crossed, solve the spam lead problem. All right. And that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a comment or just let me know. I'm Dan at AdWordsNerds.com. You can always head over to AdWordsNerds.com for more information on PPC for real estate investors. And as always, I hope you have an awesome day. And I'll be talking to you very soon. Cheers.